Hi there, it's Frank Klezitz with Vyral Marketing. I want to welcome you to our database marketing hangout with Andrew Duncan, who's one of the top, if not the #1 real estate professional in Tampa, Florida. Sold well over some 600 homes last year, over 5 million GCI. And we're going to spend a good hour here today talking about how he did it, and more specifically, how he did it with video marketing, internet marketing, leveraging himself, endorsements, testimonials, and even how through all that, he's even be able to, command higher rates to get homes sold, not only for what he does to get the home sold, the actual deliverable to the client, but also from a positioning standpoint, where someone looks at Andrew and be like, wow, look at all of your credibility that has been very good to market, versus someone maybe that can't communicate that as well in the listing presentation. So Andrew, hopefully, last time we were here with Andrew, we didn't have the technology quite working well. Hopefully it's working okay today. Cross your fingers, we're going to find out. I think we got it figured out. So
yes.
Andrew, thanks for being on the Hangout today, buddy.
I think I figured out the issue, so we're good.
No, it looks really good. Looks great. Nope, everything's going just fine. Your sound sounds really good. All right, man. So here's how I want to kind of get started here. You have probably accomplished in the easily top 1.01% of a real estate professional in terms of gross commission income and number of homes sold in a year. There's no question about that. And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And we can spend an entire hour easily going through the story of how you did it. But I want to really focus on the marketing that you did to get to where you're at. So let's start here. Let's get a little bit of backstory and like how you first started in the business. And then I want to hear about the mental shifts that you had to make to get comfortable spending on marketing. Because that's where the first place people go is getting comfortable with spending money on marketing. And then we're going to talk about all the things you did with marketing to get the leverage that you needed to get to this point. All right?
Awesome.
Talk about how you got started and then how you basically became comfortable with the idea of writing checks for marketing.
So it's funny, my first year in the real estate business, I sold one home and I sold it to my parents and I gave them half the commission back. So I didn't really have a banner year in year one. So for everyone out there maybe struggling or not accomplishing what you want, just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It can happen. Just because you're not successful in year one doesn't really mean anything. So I had been a sales rep for a Fortune 100 company in a prior career and really enjoyed sales, and then started dabbling in real estate investment and just kind of got the bug for real estate. And I met enough agents to know that I could do it, and I thought I could do it better. And I think at first, for me, it was really about replacing an income and a job that I'd had in a prior career. After I started, producing, I got to the point where I needed leverage. So before I really started spending money on marketing, it was really just a matter of working my sphere of influence, people I knew, friends and family members, and some of my own personal investing. Once I started establishing enough income to where I had enough money left over than paying my own bills, then I started spending money on marketing. And of course, my wife joined me, which was probably the best investment in my career was marrying up and marrying someone who was really smart and bright on the operational side of the business that could help me. But for me, I needed to earn enough income where I could reinvest in the business. And I think the lesson that I tell people today, and one of the things I learned, was that early on, I was very frugal, and I also really watched my money. I didn't go out and buy a brand new fancy car. I didn't go out and spend a bunch of money on lavish things. I was very conscientious about making sure to save enough money to be able to reinvest and grow the business past where it could be as me just as an individual agent.
Okay, so here's what I took away from that. You first got in the business, and you got to pay the bills like anybody else. Yep. But there's lots of places you could have started. You could have started with buyer leads online. You could have started prospecting expireds and FSBOs. But you started with your past clients in Sphere database.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little deeper on why you started there versus doing other things and what you did to get started there.
Sure. Well, I think first and foremost, people that know you and have known you a long time trust you. There's a certain level of trust that's already embedded that you don't have to sell as much. You're just servicing them. And then just letting them know that you're in real estate. I think that was where I really started. And of course, ended up through phases adding in expireds, adding in pay-per-click campaigns and Craigslist ads and all the different online strategies bit by bit. It seemed very incremental. A lot of people sometimes say, well, hey, you're for the industry, you kind of an overnight success, and been doing it for 10 years, so it wasn't overnight, but it's really been gradual growth where we've added 2 or 3 things every year, to kind of the bag of tricks or the bag of tools, so to speak. So that we didn't overwhelm and do too much at once. We just gradually every year said, okay, this year we're going to start doing X. and next year we're going to start doing Y. And I think too often realtors were really guilty of paying for all the subscription services. We'll go to a conference and come home with like 67 things we want to do. We'll sign up for a bunch of them and we'll pay a bunch of money, and we won't do crap with most of it. So the thing I think we learned was that if we were going to do something, we were going to invest in something, we were actually going to master it and get really good at it and implement it before we added anything else.
So let's go through the layers. Let's go through the order of the lead generation pillars all the way up to 5 million GCI, the best we can.
Sure.
Order best we can. So past clients in Sphere, what did you do when you first started? And what would you recommend for someone to work their past clients in Sphere now?
Well, obviously I didn't have past clients, but it was more Sphere. It was friends, family, people that you knew. So I think first off, I wanted them to know that I knew a lot about real estate. I went to as many educational seminars as I could, and I learned a lot about investing. And people had seen that I had done my own investing. I bought rental properties or I'd flipped homes. So they knew I at least had an understanding even before I became an agent. So I think it was just a matter of conveying enough information to them that I knew what I was talking about so that when they had a need, I'd be the person that would get that phone call. I think some simple things I did were, really simple email newsletters. This is before really social media took off like it is today. But some simple email newsletters I did at the beginning. I would do some lunches with clients where, I'd get together with them. I would, and then certainly before I had a large amount of listings, other things, you add in when you don't have money, you do open houses for agents. I would sit at developments. There were builders and developers in town that would allow agents to hold open houses. I did everything I possibly could do in the beginning that was free and got as much out of that as I could and revenue and income out of it before I started, investing in hard dollars.
I think that's a big takeaway is so many people will come in to try to spend money to buy the leads. You went out and did the hard work, which is the smart work of working the people you know. Then on top of that, you went out and you kept building your database by doing other brokers' open houses, sitting in someone else's open house to get the homeowners to come to your open house, at least to meet them, which is good. So when you first started, how many people would you say you had in your database when you first started?
Maybe 500.
500, all the people you knew. How long did you live in Tampa?
So I was in Tampa. I moved to Tampa in 2000 and got in real estate and didn't really get into it full time until 2006. So 5 or 6 years in Tampa before.
That's pretty good, knowing 500 people.
Yeah. Well, I was in sales before, so I did a lot of networking and not in real estate sales, but I knew enough people in the corporate world, and those were a lot of the resources at the beginning.
Got it. Okay. So let's move on. So you started with working and building your database, and you start with 500 in the business.
Yep.
Just so you know, where are you at now with your database if you strip out like all your leads? Like I'm not worried about leads right now.
Probably 100,000 people.
Well, 100,000 total if you have like all your leads in there from all your marketing. But just like, you probably have over 1,000 past clients, 1,500 past clients now.
No, a lot more. I just pulled the list the other day because we're doing a promotion where we're giving away like a entertainment.com VIP perks membership to all of our past clients, and I think it was 3,200 emails from what I recall. Some of those are spouses, but yeah, it's definitely in the thousands at this point.
Okay. So you started with the foundation of working the people you know and expanding that and staying in touch with them. And later on, you became a Vyral client and you started doing it with video, but the premise is the same. Okay.
Yes.
Now, after you work in that database and exhausting that, what were the next steps you took to bring in more contacts into your database?
So I think, the part that you hit at some point is, it's clear in the real estate business, he who owns the listings owns the market. We're a dominant listing company in our market. And that leads the transition to everything else. So I knew that the key to growing a successful real estate business with all the books I'd read, all the conferences I'd gone to, all the successful people I met was listing. So I started working for sale by owners and expireds. I would call FSBOs and expireds every single morning. Got really good at it. And my goal was to create listings, which would then bring buyers and more listings if you do a good job selling them. So my next foray was really going after expireds and for sale by owners.
Okay. So the key word so far, the foundations of your success was focusing on the database and relationships and staying in touch, and then finally focusing on getting the listing. And it was probably easier for you to go after listings initially because you had a background in sales.
Correct.
Some people may be uncomfortable with that. Is there anything else that made it comfortable for you to go after the listing in the very beginning?
No, I've always been super competitive. So to me, I viewed that as a challenge, and when I got into real estate, I was in my mid-20s, and I had people telling me that I wasn't going to be successful, and to be successful in real estate, you had to be, in the business for a long time, and you had to be with this and such company. So honestly, I wanted to prove a lot of people wrong. I'd heard repeatedly that, I couldn't do something, and that just motivated me to want to do it even more. So, I think for me, going after the listing, I knew was the key to success. I play a lot of basketball, so it's kind of like the 3-point shot in today's NBA. If you're going to win in today's NBA, you got to have a great 3-point shooting team. And I know in the real estate business, you got to have a great listing operation to be successful. And so I knew that after I'd modeled and talked to and spoke to some of the top agents around the country. And, conversation after conversation, it was clear that listings, you had to be a dominant lister first.
So let's go back to that database. You started with a database of 500 people you had to call up and start communicating with that you're in real estate. You're not a secret agent. Right. How many deals did you do in the first year out of a database of 500 people?
Well, like I said, my first year I did 1 deal. So not a lot.
So it took a while for them to remember the fact you were an agent, but second year.
Correct. The second year, I want to say I did like 18 transactions. And what's interesting about it was that I think it took a while for people. There's a lot of people that get into real estate business and are part-timers that are, that don't necessarily devote a full amount of energy to it, that dabble in it, so to speak. So it takes a little bit of time, I think, even for your friends and family when you first get into the business to take you seriously. They want to see you stick. They want to know that you're going to be around for the long haul. They want to know that you're, that this is your career path. So I think, it was crushing for me even in that first year to have other people that I knew that I had called choose to work with someone else. And it was because I hadn't been in the business and it was going to take a while for them to be able to trust me doing it. So I think in year 2, it was clear, okay, this guy's for real. He's starting to make some waves. He's starting to get some business. And then it was more legitimate to where, your sphere and people start to trust you a little bit, even a little bit more. It's one of the reasons I encourage people to join a team environment. And I think one of the reasons why people in my company thrive and why our agents outperform the average agent, about 6 to 1 in terms of number of transactions in our market is because, they can go somewhere where a lot of that's already there and there's already an embedded trust with their sphere because they're joining a company that has a reputation. I didn't necessarily have that. So that, I think, slowed my development a little bit. Whereas if I could do it over, I would have found a powerhouse team to join, and that's where I would have started.
Yeah, same. Our office sold this many homes. I work for this.
Correct. Yeah, a team that generates the business and things like that. And I probably would have had a better year in year 1. I would have actually
more than one.
I would have done better than a half a sale on my parents' house.
So this is good, man. So I think the big takeaways that I'm learning so far is in the beginning, you just worked very hard with the people you knew. You focused on listings, and then from there, you didn't really spend much money outside of some email newsletters. And then from there, you went to expireds and FSBOs of you making the phone calls. So whenever you got these deals, there's lots of money left over because you weren't spending a fortune to get the business in the first place. I think that's a key insight.
In year 2, before I met my wife, I knew that I wanted to reinvest everything I could. I'd read a lot of books. I'd read the manuals about how to be a successful real estate agent and how to be successful and how to do this and how to do that. And it was clear that you had to have money. You had to be able to spend money on advertising. Well, I didn't really have the ability to do that until I could move the needle on my income. One of the things I did was I got 3 roommates. I had a 4-bedroom house, and I said, you know what? Man, I need some extra money to spend, to figure out how to be successful in real estate. So I went out and got 3 roommates. Well, it was 3 females. So when I met my wife, that pretty much went away pretty fast. But I had 3 roommates pretty quickly. And it was a big reason why I was able to early on start to spend some money on marketing because
you had a big
some of my costs.
Well, you had a big vision.
Yeah.
Is that you wanted to keep your expenses low.
Right.
You didn't blow all the money you were making from working so hard to reward yourself. You invested in something else.
Correct.
Let's talk about that first investment. What was the first big investment that you made to get to the next level after database, expireds, FSBOs? What's next?
So it was funny, like kind of year 3, it was a lot of like throwing mud up against the wall to see what would work, a lot of trial and error. I did newspaper ads. I did, a lot of things that didn't work or didn't work to the extent that you'd expect they would. For me, when I started going after listings, and expireds and FSBOs, started some postcard campaigns and got some traction from those. Just listed, just sold in neighborhoods that I wanted to go after. And it was really when, at that time, there weren't a lot of people using Craigslist, for example, to post listings on. I hired a virtual assistant, signed up with an IDX service through Boomtown, and started posting a lot of listings on Craigslist. And that was one of the things that catapulted us, because it was free. It was a lot of successful people were doing it, and it generated a lot of leads for me to really jumpstart into building a team.
And what you should be taking away from this so far, what I'm learning is you still haven't spent any money.
Not much.
Yeah,
right?
You got yourself a website, nice
3 or 4 years in, and literally, like, obviously today our marketing budget is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, it's obviously a lot different today, because now we're building a brand, we're leveraging more, and we do a lot of media advertising. But then, we took advantage of everything we could that wasn't super costly. And once we mastered those things, then we went on to saying, okay, now it's time to spend money.
So you started with your buyer leads, you get yourself a nice buyer home search site. In this case, it was Boomtown. But you didn't spend a lot of money on the pay-per-click. You were just doing Craigslist postings.
A lot of Craigslist, yeah, correct.
Okay, great. All right, this is pretty good stuff. Let's keep going. What's the next pillar? Keep going up.
So the next thing for us was leverage. We started creating more leads than we could keep up with, so we needed to hire people. We needed to find agents that could follow our culture and our vision, that would work within a system that my wife and I believed to be successful. And we failed pretty miserably at hiring agents. We would hire people we liked. We didn't really have a system for it, and it worked. And in that kind of year 4 or 5 range, we were successful. Our number of transactions grew, and our income grew, but we weren't, we didn't really have a great system. We did a lot of short sales, which I think we kind of carved out ourselves a little niche back then when short sales started to hit. Not a lot of people wanted to do them. They were lower price points, but again, we took them on. And again, it created a lot of leads, a lot of opportunities. We helped a lot of families in tough situations when a lot of agents wanted to turn that business away. And we would take the money that we would earn from that, and we'd save it and save it and save it. And then, eventually, obviously, more marketing would follow. I think that a big turning point for us was about 5 years ago, hiring a coach, and then building out advertising campaigns that were more of a media buy, TV, radio, some of the lead aggregators with Zillow and Realtor.com and some of those things. So that was when we really started becoming a marketing agency, where we were spending a significant amount of money on marketing to create leads and business. But it took a while for us to build up enough income and revenue to be able to spend that. A lot of people make the mistake of doing that first when they don't have the basics. They don't know how to overcome objections. They haven't been down in the trenches of being a salesperson, or how to overcome those objections. And they start generating leads before they actually know how to convert them. I think if you follow that same path, and you get really good at converting FSBO and expireds and some of those really tough leads that a lot of agents are competing for, and you get good at that, your conversion, which is obviously what makes us income, will be really strong when you add in other things.
This is great, Andrew. So you started with past clients, or sphere. You started with your sphere, built your database. Then you worked predominantly on listings. You focused on listings. Then you focused on expireds and FSBOs. Then you went to some buyer leads, but you generated the buyer leads inexpensively, or you got the buyer leads from your signs on your listings.
Correct.
Right?
Sign calls were a big piece of it. Correct.
That's a big piece of it. Then, before spending any money, you decided to hire more people on your team. My question is, before you started spending all the money on media, which is what we're getting to, did you just give them all the leads, or do they have to generate their own leads, the people on your team?
So, at the beginning, like I said, it was probably a lot of hodgepodge where there wasn't a lot of consistency. The intention and the goal is really to in our model, our agents, certainly some of them do generate their own business or past, referrals, and they do open houses. But our goal is to create enough business for them to focus on serving our clients that we generate for them, so they can focus on what they do best, which is sell homes.
And that's where the media buys come in at this point.
Correct.
So now you have your team.
And that was our goal. Our goal at that time was the same, but I think we learned, and it's part of that growing phase where we hired a coach. We, hired Bob Corcoran, who we've coached with for forever. It's the only coach that I've had. And, he really put systems in place to help us hire and find the right people. Before that, it was a lot of, hey, let's bring this person over because, they know some people, or they have some leads, or there really wasn't a good consistency with it. He helped us establish that consistency of, how to bring someone into our company, how to train them, how to help them grow. That's pretty much where the foundation of that started.
So how many years was it from when you started until you started spending money on actual marketing?
Probably about 4 or 5 years, really. I mean,
4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it was a lot of just, like I said, people you knew, short sales, free stuff, and again, we did pay for Boomtown, so Boomtown wasn't free, but it pales in comparison to what we spend today on marketing and lead generation.
Yeah, you just got the buyer site, but you weren't spending money on the generated leads. It was through Craigslist. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So now at this point, you actually are happy with your team. So if you actually wrote the checks that you have now because you can afford it,
right,
and you can actually send them the leads, they'll actually convert them.
Correct.
Right? And so good. So you started with some TV and radio. Why don't you tell us a little bit how that's worked for you and how that's building your database too? And by the way, everyone, hang on. What I want you to see here, because this is the database marketing hangout, is he started with his database of the people he knew. Then he started building his database by talking to FSBOs and expireds. Then he started building his database by talking to buyer leads, right? And now we're talking about building your database from names generated from media or radio or television. So it's all about database generation. There's just ways to lever it up, and we're at the most leveraged way of doing it right now through radio and TV. So tell us about this investment.
So
your thoughts behind this.
We've worked with Matt Wagner, radio and television experts, the whole time that we've advertised on radio, and Matt had actually called me and solicited me to advertise on radio, and I think I probably blew him off at least a dozen times. And he had talked to multiple other agents in the market that had turned him down. And we were at that point where we're ready to spend some money. And he came to us with a plan of using celebrity endorsements in our marketplace to run, call to action radio ads that would make the phone ring. And I was really hesitant and nervous about it first because it was $3,000 a month. And at the time, $3,000 a month was a lot of money to us. My wife, I can remember her being, her security gland, her getting nervous about, that kind of an investment. And I did my research. I spoke to a lot of his clients and repeatedly heard over and over again that, that people were happy with the endorsement that worked. And Glenn Beck was our first endorsement. So, whether you're political, not political, Glenn is, started his radio career in Tampa and has a really strong following of conservatives here. So we started with radio ads on his station that he spoke. And that was our very first endorsement, our very first radio ad. And from the beginning, it was clear that it was successful and a winner for us. And, it made the phone ring and it gave us credibility with an audience. And we've just kind of continued down that path of, using endorsers and celebrities to kind of help grow our business. We're now the official real estate agents of the Tampa Bay Lightning. You can actually see that right behind me here. So we have a relationship with our local hockey team. Barbara Corcoran endorses us, and we run TV commercials with her through Matt as well. And just a whole plethora of media personalities, local and nationally, that we've been vetted by. Because most of these personalities, a lot of times people assume that, oh, you just stroke them a check and they do what you want. That's not the way they work. They all have integrity. So they vet you. They make sure that you produce the numbers you say, that you follow the programs you say. And so the personalities for us were a big key to, kind of taking it to that next level.
Sure. I think my webcam went out. You can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, my webcam went out. No worries. All right. So what, financially speaking, from your marketing, is there like a percentage of revenue, or like how fast did you ramp up your marketing spend versus the money you have coming in?
So I think that at that time we were probably out of model. In other words, if you look at how successful teams are built, you've read any of the, like you read the Red Book or any of the books that are supposed to be structured around a team model. At that point, we were spending more on marketing than we were supposed to. However, we had a desire to really grow it and reinvest in it and take it to another level. So we were okay going outside of that. Today, however, we're probably on, we're within that model of, 10 to 15%, of your gross commission on marketing and on lead gen. So for us, that obviously that budget has grown pretty dramatically over the years. At that time, the $3,000 was a lot of money. Now, we might spend $3,000 in a day, on different marketing initiatives. So it does change over time, and you have to reinvest, but you have to track. That's one thing I think, the two of the biggest mistakes real estate agents make is they spend money on things they don't use. Like, I'm sure, Frank, you guys deal with this all the time. People will sign up for Vyral and they'll never record a video.
Yep.
They'll never put crap on YouTube.
Yep.
They'll never do anything with it. And then it's your fault because they didn't get a return, So,
it's, yes. And
if you're going to do something, do it, own it, get really good at it, track it, and hold it accountable. And before you go and chase another shiny object or another squirrel or another marketing initiative, get really good at that one first and then add something else later. And that's something that we've just been disciplined with over the years. Bob Corcoran has helped us a lot with that. But we look at it every year and decide, okay, what new marketing initiatives are we going to do? We don't add them. We don't add a whole bunch of things at once. We'll add one thing. We make sure we master it and get really, really good at it before we add something else.
And that is why you're successful, Andrew.
Thank you.
It is. It really is. And you can see how, and again, it's probably strange watching a talking logo. So my webcam went out and just went join me.
Hey, I have to admit, I am amazed at my webcam right now.
I know.
Because we had major technical difficulties. Even 10 minutes ago, I couldn't get mine to work, and now mine's blazing.
Yeah, Google Hangouts been giving us some challenges.
I'm just excited. I feel amazing.
Yeah, you're happy that my technology isn't working. It's good. I know. All right. So you start with your sphere and you built that, then listings, and you want to focus on listings. You worked your database, and you brought in some buyer leads, super cheap. You build a team. You built the foundation of a brand. So what I see with so many agents starting off is they get maybe a buyer site right away, and they're running buyers all over town without any strategy, and they're not building listings, or they're jumping right to Zillow or Realtor.com leads. The big takeaway from this hangout is how that stuff came last, and how you built this business on such an incredible foundation of relationships, honestly.
Yeah.
Because this was built on a foundation of real long-term homeowner relationships as opposed to cold leads.
Right. And it's great. I mean, we still get referrals from people we sold homes to 8 and 9 years ago. And it's the greatest feeling. It's so cool. But you're right. I mean, it started with that, and we added the other stuff later. Like an example is when you look at some of the listing aggregators, the Realtor.com, the Zillow, the Trulia, sometimes they get a bad rap from people because people say, oh, we're paying them for our own leads. And there's some validity to that. But at the same time, if you're looking at a well-rounded marketing strategy, you have, if they have that much traffic, you have to play with them. But they shouldn't necessarily be your lead-off hitter. They should be something that comes in, after you've already
you complemented the radio, TV, Zillow, Realtor, all those things with this. But there's something else too that you brought up earlier that you also did a very good job of that we're kind of skipping over. It's kind of your internet presence and your content creation.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about, along the way, you did a really good job with mastering YouTube. You did a really good job at mastering your blog. And this was without even hiring us. Before you even hired us. Yeah, well, I know you were reading all of our stuff.
I was stealing your stuff, legally stealing it, because I'll tell you what I remember hearing you speak, and kind of a light went off in my brain about client testimonials. And I knew they were going to be a wave. I knew reviews and testimonials were going to be the wave of the millennial consumer, because that's what they wanted to use to validate you. Even if they hear a radio ad, if they Google you and they don't see a bunch of great reviews or a bunch of content about you, you're not valid. They don't trust you. So I knew all the other things that we were going to do, just on all the thousands of pages of marketing books that I read and all the self-education I gave myself, if we were going to be great with media advertising, when people Google us, they have to see a lot of great information content. It has to be believable. So, you spoke at a conference that I went to about YouTube and building playlists, and how much Google juice you get by optimizing the videos with proper titles and tags and a well-built out YouTube page. And before I even touched Twitter or Facebook, I was mastering YouTube and putting videos on there of us talking about the market, or property videos that, if you look at our property videos from 10 years ago and look at the ones today, amazing difference in terms of the quality with, drone stuff, or DJI Osmo videos where you can walk through with a stabilized camera. I mean, the quality is just amazingly different. But back then, no one was really using YouTube. So I started with just videoing every we videoed every property. We would video neighborhoods. I do a radio show every week. I would video the radio show and take segments from it. So I wanted to do everything I could to create videos every single day and just continue publishing as much video as I could. So when people Googled certain phrases, our videos would come up or our websites would come up, as the content. So YouTube has been, and it's completely free, and it's a lot of time. But I will tell you, like I said, for 2 years, all the great ideas I got from you guys, at some point I finally said, okay, it's time to hire and pay them because look how well we're doing. And a lot of it started with that foundation of understanding how important testimonials were.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And you did a really good job on your YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and type in just Andrew Duncan or Duncan Duo, you'll see.
Yeah, youtube.com/the Duncan Duo.
Yeah, you'll see this an amazingly optimized YouTube channel, and you can literally copy that for yourself. And then your video blog, what's your video blog address? Do you know?
Tampa, we've got a couple that you guys have put together. TampaRealEstateVideos.com is the main one.
Good, great. So what happens is people probably hear about you. You're prospecting them, right? You leave a message, hey, call me back, or they see your ads and they Google you, right? And all this stuff shows up, and like, wow, this guy's actually really legit. Look at all these wonderful things he's published.
And that's all the reviews too. The reviews, I think, are a big piece of it.
How many reviews do you have these days?
Oh, probably close to 1,000 between all the different sites. I mean, we have a lot. And
my goodness.
It's important because the consumer's using that to validate you, and I'll see people and I'll Google their company and I won't see a review and it makes me distrust them. And even the ones when they don't have any bad reviews, I'm a little skeptical. No one's going to be perfect. So, if I see someone with 4.8, 4.9 stars, I'm pretty happy. If they've got 152 5-star reviews and no zeros, I'm generally a little bit more skeptical.
I think the two words that come to mind for you are awareness and discipline, because you had the awareness that while working in the business of taking care of all these transactions and training all these people that you hired, right, and making all these calls, you had the awareness to ask for the review consistently for the past God knows how many years.
Yeah.
And you had the awareness to post the videos on YouTube, and you still managed to get those little things in when everyone else wouldn't have wouldn't be able to do it on their own. Why? Why were you able to do it?
I was talking to a friend today, and it's funny. We obviously have a large staff of people that I work with and train. We've got virtual people, we've got in-office people, each of them with their own kind of tasks and responsibilities in our business. And I was talking to a friend who spends significantly more on radio and TV than we do, but gets a far lower return. And it was clear as soon as I Googled his company that the reason why was because he didn't have a lot of content, he didn't create a lot of video, he didn't have a lot of reviews on certain sites, so he wasn't believable to the consumer.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything you can share about how you built this company and how you maintain discipline to make sure you got all those reviews and publish all that content and doing all those things along the way? Like, you just work 27 hours a day?
No, not at all. I will tell you this much, though. I am a night owl, so there are times when I will, do things at night, that are project related like that, or that I'm sending emails to our virtual people and telling them what to do. So I'm passionate about it. I'm always keeping my eye on that because that is really job number one for me now. I'm not really in production anymore. I have listing partners and buyer partners that are working with the clients. My role is the CEO is to pay attention to all the measurable data, and marketing is a big piece of that because it's the brand. It's what makes the phone ring. It's how we get business. So I'm always looking at the analytical data and measuring what we're doing online. And I think that, for where we are as a company today, to stay ahead of everybody, to stay ahead of the curve, it's something I have to keep paying attention to all the time.
For sure. So let's go a little deeper now into normally how I structure these Hangouts of the Vyral Marketing Plan. The Vyral Marketing Plan to get more clients from your database. This is the plan all of our clients follow is, look, you got to build a database. You got to be getting email addresses of people that give you permission to stay in touch. You got to be communicating with them consistently with something of value that they would actually pay to receive, something educational, something that adds value to their life. And then ideally, I give you the names of all the people that watch those videos. You probably want to follow up in some fashion with those individuals.
Yep.
So I know you have a really large team, and it might be difficult for people to relate to maybe how exactly you do it. So maybe we can talk about what you did in the beginning versus what you do now. But let's just talk about how you build how are you building your database now beyond just leads opting in on your website? Like, tell me how you build your database. If I were to ask you right now, how do you do it?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, obviously you touched on the leads, which those are just natural progression. Every person that comes through the company is on a website or registered in a database. Secondarily, you've got networking. We do some marketing things with the Tampa Bay Lightning, with our relationship with them. So we don't obviously get their database, but we're sending pieces out to them that bring their people into our world. And I think social media is a big piece of it. You get people to follow you on Twitter or like you on Facebook. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at the Duncan Duo. And you get them to follow you on Twitter, and then they're really in your database at that point. Even though you're not emailing them, they're seeing your content. So it's really a matter of creating enough information that's relevant and good that people find it useful enough to kind of pay attention to and follow you, like you, or subscribe to whatever it is that whatever information you're producing.
Well, you're putting out. So let's talk about the content that you're putting out.
Sure.
So obviously you do videos of all your listings now. Is that right?
Yep.
So who does that, and how much does that cost?
So we have in-house photographers that do it. So we don't necessarily have a hard cost. We just have a labor cost. They're trained on how to use them, and then and we use outside third-party photographers and videographers for really luxurious listings, and then we hire actors, and we hire videographers for specific projects. But for the typical listing, we do them in-house.
For the typical listing, it's a collage of pictures that shows up on YouTube.
And if somebody wanted to hire out someone to do that, it's a couple $100.
Sure. So you got your properties, obviously, and then you have your educational videos. Now, are you doing your videos where we interview on the webcam? How are you shooting your Q&A tip videos or your market update?
So because I have a radio show, I'm almost always talking about some of the same things. So I've always got a list of content. But my Vyral rep always sends me some of the emails of the things that have gotten good open rates. So I'll simply record a video based on a topic that she says, did well in another market, or is kind of a topic of the moment. Like an example would be how the election is going to impact real estate would be a great video right now. So little things like that tie into what's going on in the country or in our local market will get people's attention, and they're relevant. So when it comes to creating the video, we all talk about this stuff every single day. If you're a pretty active real estate agent, there's so much content that you could spend and record a couple of minute video on that's really, really easy to do.
And that's our job, is to help you kind of figure out what those topics are. Yeah. And then probably one of the easiest things is we actually, for those of you watching, we take all of the emails that we publish for our clients every week, and we rate the top couple ones that get the best results, and we post them on our website. And that's pretty much what we're sending over to you, Andrew. Do you shoot your videos just on the webcam with us?
Sometimes I do. I have a GoPro, and then I also have we have the DJI Osmo. We've got probably 3 or 4 different cameras. What I can tell you though, don't overcomplicate it. Don't let the complication of thinking you have to have the latest and greatest and best and most amazing camera start. For a long time, I used a little generic flip camera that was $50 on eBay. That's 4 or 5 years old. So you don't have to overcomplicate it. You just have to start.
Yeah. So you also have this radio show. So this is something that Matt Widener hooked you up with?
Yeah. So when we started running radio ads, one of the things that we felt would brand us as an expert, and it's something I'm comfortable doing, just like this. This is comfortable for me. Some people talking in front of people or talking to people on air or talking on radio isn't comfortable for them. For me, I can get in front of thousands of people and I don't get nervous at all. But the radio show for me was a way to convey great information about the market and to convey yourself as an expert. So it was a helpful tool to help all the other things work well. So if, for example, they heard an ad and then they listened to our radio show, or they saw that we had a radio show, all those things kind of work well together. A lot of the things that we do, it's interesting, if you took any of them individually by themselves, sometimes they wouldn't work by themselves. It's really kind of a whole collaborative effort that each of those things, if you pull one of them out, maybe something else doesn't work as well. So a lot of times I think realtors look for the shortcut, the get rich quick scheme. They watch Carlton Sheets at night and tell you how to buy houses with no money down. Yep. And they think that it's easy. I'm just going to go out and host a radio show, or I'm just going to go out and run real estate radio ads. And it's so much more complicated than that. You literally have to understand that a lot of the things we do are dependent on other things that may not work in and of themselves by themselves independently.
Got it. So obviously you're building and you're working your database. I think everyone understands that. And you're leveraging your database building by buying media, so people call you. Then you are publishing content. You regularly publish content. You get it up online so people can find it. Then you also push it out to your database through email and social media so they see it, right? Yep. Now, on top of that, are you or is anyone on your team calling what's the open and click reports that people click on the links in the emails?
Yeah. So we have inside salespeople that monitor that list, as well as our agents. So they monitor that list when that list comes out to see if they have clients or prospective clients that are on it because they use it as a touch or a follow-up call. But absolutely, we call everyone that opens the videos, and then it's a great introduction to say, hey, you saw Andrew's video talking about, the election or his radio show, or a hockey player that came on the radio show, or whatever it is, and then it's a great talking point for people.
Good. Wonderful. All right. So one of the other layers that we haven't discussed yet, again, let me just reiterate, everyone. Again, if you're just joining me, my webcam went out, so you're watching a logo of me talking. You're watching this live with me talking with a logo. But you started off about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, working your sphere of about 500 people.
Yep.
Took you to 18 transactions in year 2, and then you rounded that out with working expireds and FSBOs. Then you got yourself a buyer site, but all of your traffic came from Craigslist posts. You didn't spend a lot of money. Then you started building a team, and really you're selling a lot of houses and you're keeping a lot of profit. You're being very frugal by living with roommates, right?
Yeah.
And you like, wow, I have money now to invest very comfortably, have a good foundation. And even then you decided to hire a coach before you did that. And once you had a coach and you extremely knew what you were doing with a solid foundation, good money in the bank, a good economics of your business, and you've been to the ringer of knowing what to say and how to run everything and actually get the home sold, at this point you started writing checks and just started scaling up with radio, TV, Zillow,
yes,
and Realtor.com.
Correct.
Right? Great. Now, one last thing is that we just recently started rolling out some advertising here at Vyral Marketing. You're one of the early adopters on that.
Oh, and I love it.
So that's good. I'm glad. So why don't you tell me, you're an ad guy. I could see you up at late night, up late at night geeking out totally. Yeah.
You get my 2 o'clock in the morning.
I do.
Out on the West Coast, it's only like 11, so it's not late for you. But
I could see you doing the YouTube ads and the Facebook ads and all this stuff. And I want to know why you're spending the money on this, and why you engaged us to run the ads, and maybe talk about what the ads are working. But what are your thoughts on just the whole advertising thing we're doing with Facebook and YouTube?
So I'll tell you, in my market right now, we obviously do a lot of media, and I think we learned a few years ago that the millennial consumer loves social channels. They may not listen to the radio, they may not watch TV, they may DVR stuff. So we knew if we were going to have a well-rounded marketing strategy, it wasn't just going to be about radio and TV. It was going to have to incorporate some of these other facets. And for us, in our market, we're really short on inventory, and because of the amount of marketing we do, we get a lot of loyal customers that come to us because maybe they trust one of our endorsers, or they're a hockey fan, or they listen to us on radio, or they see us with Barbara on Shark Tank. I mean, it's a whole variety of different things. But when we get one of those clients and we can't find them a home, it's probably one of the most discouraging things you can imagine, when you have a buyer that's ready to go and you can't find them a home. We've got some creative things we do to help them win in bidding wars, and we've had a great success at that, but sometimes you're just not going to be cash. So, we wanted to come up with a strategy of how do we find homes for those folks? Well, so you guys, came up with some really creative ad copy for us to run ads to local IP addresses in neighborhoods in my market, geared around the home buyer that we have and the seller that they're looking for, the type of home they're looking for. Now, it's a double-edged sword. You're obviously looking for the customer, you're looking for your buyer, but it creates a lot of seller leads as well, because it's specific. It's a pre-market opportunity. It's, there's a lot of uniqueness to it. People are emotional sometimes, and not just based on math. They hear the story of, we had a veteran not long ago. We had a local doctor that was looking for something, and we ran an ad for him. So the stories sometimes are attractive to people, because not every person out there is selling their home for every penny they can get. Sometimes it's about the family they're selling to. Sometimes there's a story behind it for them. So those ads for us have been terrific in helping us find inventory for buyer needs that we have in a short inventory market, as well as creating seller leads. When the seller doesn't have a home that fits that, but they think it's innovative what we're doing. And we've also created buyer leads, where buyers will see that ad and be like, wow, no other broker in town's doing something like that for me. Like, these guys are they're out running ads, finding homes for their clients.
Well, let's go.
It's had a lot of variation to it, and a lot of teeth to it to help us generate business.
I wrote that ad copy. I put a lot of thought into that strategy, and I just want to share it with our audience here. Is, you could target a neighborhood or a zip code or a radius around an address on YouTube as well as Facebook. And you could basically run an ad that says, hey, I have these buyers. Here's the story. There's not a lot of homes for sale. They're looking for this type of home in this area. If you've been interested in selling, want to introduce you to, basically.
Right.
And the people that reply back to you are like really legitimate leads versus like the leads to opt in, like request your blind free value report
really
way
strong.
upstream.
They're valid. Yeah.
And that's been working really well for you. And it's been working well, not just because the ads themselves, but synergistically. They probably Google you. They probably go back to your Facebook page, like, who's this guy? Is this a scam on some Facebook ad
that we're creating? Right.
Yeah, they see everything else online. And that's why you're doing so well. You have really benefited from the synergistic effect of all your marketing coming together to be one of the most productive agents in the world.
Thank you.
You really have, man.
Thank you much.
This is good. Well, let's see if you have any questions here. If there's any viewers on here, I'm going to go ahead and click the Q&A box. If you have any questions, feel free to type in here on the right. I want to go through see if there's any other tips that we can offer. What about using video or viral marketing for recruiting or any recruiting aspects? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have a recruiting blog that you guys have helped us with. And that,
okay, good.
One of the things I'll say, it's jointheduo.com. But one of the things I'll tell you that I think is important is that I'm a marketing junkie. Could I have created and put together and run the Facebook ad campaign and all that? Yeah. Would it have been as good as you guys? No, because it's what you do every day. It's just like why someone hires a real estate agent instead of doing it themselves. But the thing I'll tell you is that you guys have proven yourself over time to do a good job for some of my marketing outreach and helping me with a lot of what we do. So it was clear to me that you guys were going to do it better than I could. And at the same time, though, I look at the stuff you're doing to monitor it and track it and make sure it's working. And I can tell you, like, there's so much more to come on that too. There's so many other ideas that my coach shares with me and, kind of collaborates on to come up with, unique things to help us generate business for our company.
Well, it's because you talked to us, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Like I told you, that the average realtor is going to sign up for 6 things. They're going to actually implement one of them, and they're going to spend a year paying for the other 5 things and not do crap with them. And it's discouraging, but I'll talk to people and, they'll say, oh, I don't get anything from Vyral. It's like, oh, when's the last time you talked to your coach? Oh, I haven't talked to him. Did you record any videos? No. Well, yeah, no wonder, and now you're wondering why you're not getting any return from it. And I think that's the thing that I would tell people out there that want to follow a path to success in real estate. It's whatever you start with, master it before you add other things to it. Don't go chasing shiny objects and squirrels before you've mastered the one that's in front of you. Get really good at it, then do more of it. And then once you've done a lot of it, then you can add another pillar. But too many people attempt to do too many things at once, and then they're a master of nothing. And then they don't succeed, and they wonder why, because they attempted to copy everything a top realtor did in a month. To build what we built, it's 10 years to get to the point where we are now. We'll sell 1,000 homes this year, and people look at that and say, oh, it's like an overnight success. But it's 10 years to get there, and every year it was an incremental, gradual addition of something new to the company. It wasn't all these things at once. My wife and I both grew up poor. We didn't have money. We didn't start this thing with a bunch of money, and we're not trust fund babies. We started it from scratch with nothing, and it's a testament that if you follow a path and you stick to it, that it really anything is possible, and you can do the same thing. But you have to have a plan, and you have to stick to it. You can't rush and do it too fast. You have to gradually grow into that.
And that's golden advice, Andrew, because so many people struggle in business and to sell real estate and want to be where you're at. I mean, anyone who's watching at least this long really wants to be at your level in their market. And again, I'm going to say the key takeaways here is you focused on your database, you focused on listings, you didn't spend a lot of money on buyer leads, you built a team, you hired a coach, you did all of those things before you really spent any real money on any type of marketing. And then when you did, you picked one thing of marketing, you went as deep as you possibly could to master that marketing pillar before you added the next one.
Correct.
I mean, is that literally the secret to success of where you got?
That's absolutely it. And a lot of great people to help us along the way, great coaching, great mentors, great friends that had been before us and given us great advice. So, I think we implemented a lot of things that were ideas from other people. So it was never none of these ideas were never really mine originally. We got them from other people. Now, obviously, we have friends that call us for that same type of advice to help them. And we have to limit that because obviously the downside of when you become successful is that a lot of people do want to call you and ask for help and ask for your advice. There's only so much you can give. There's only so much time in the day before you're taken away from your family or from your business. But at the same time, we obviously like doing something like this where, hopefully someone on this, on this Hangout got something of value out of it, because 10 years ago, I was doing the same thing and getting items of value from, some of the, most successful real estate people then, and now it helped us grow our business.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this, a couple Vyral Marketing specific questions. I think you already answered the question, why don't you just do this yourself? When you obviously could. You have the skill set, it saves you time.
The time. And I think that's what people have to understand, that, the time that you'd spend doing it, you could focus on doing something else and get a better return for it. And at least that's where I am in my business.
Yeah. And then what about ROI tracking with Vyral Marketing? I can see that being very difficult at your point with all these things. But
I will tell you, for us at our point now, if we're getting a pretty decent direct return, we're happy, because we know we're getting an indirect return from everything that we do. Because it gets very challenging to track it all, because someone would have watched a video and heard a radio ad and seen us on TV and been on an email drip, and what was it that really got them to call? So what we track now is really marketing spend per GCI. And if we repeatedly see on our tracking forms that we're getting certain lead sources where we see that we're getting a direct ROI, then we're pretty happy. And there's no question we're getting a positive ROI from Vyral. We had a $2 million deal last year that we got from Vyral. So there, that paid for a long, Frank, that might have been for 27 years of Vyral Marketing.
Great. So, that's good.
So there's no question that we've gotten a positive ROI, but it is one of those things that as you grow, it becomes less about tracking each specific source, but more tracking the overall marketing spend and making tweaks along the way. Because you can give out all the vanity phone numbers and vanity websites that you want, but people will just go and Google you. They'll hear an ad, or they'll see you on TV, and they may not go to the website that you put on TV that you want a tracking code to. And then they may not want to tell you when you call them how you heard about us. They may not want to tell you the truth, because they think it could lead to some sort of different sales tactic. So we run into that now, where people will be hesitant to tell us how they heard about us. So, we know that there's always some fall through there.
Andrew, I'm the same wavelength with you. We really want to put all of our leads in these nice little clean columns of where all these leads came from, that we can control the buyer journey that wants to work with us to what specific ROI source. And at some point you have to say they all blend together.
Correct.
They really do.
We have it with all the advertising. I mean, we'll have somebody who will come through as a Zillow lead, and we treat them, they're a Zillow lead to us. And then at the closing table, they talk about how they hear our radio show every Sunday, or they went to a Lightning game and saw our ads. So for our purposes, when you do a lot of marketing, and I think a lot of friends of mine that are in large companies that do a lot more marketing than we do, say the same thing. It becomes a major obstacle to be able to effectively track every single source.
Yeah, so your marketing budget is just simply a moving percentage of whatever your total sales are. GCI is every single month.
Pretty much, and we revisited every 3 to 6 months. We'll look at new initiatives or things that we want to tweak or change. But we don't. I think that's one of the things as we've grown our company. We kind of have a little group of leaders, and we'll meet and talk about different initiatives and things that we want to do, and ultimately help. Our culture is such that our agents that are our leaders that run our different divisions of our company have some insight into what we're doing and some recommendations. They may think we should do this next or that next, and they'll come to us with ideas. So it's pretty much a collaborative effort now, but we review it, I would say, quarterly to decide if there's anything new we want to add, or how we're trending for the year versus our goal, and what things are working and aren't. And certainly if we repeatedly see something not working, we stop doing it.
That's great. Andrew, I want to say thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your friendship and being a great client. We'll see you at the RE/MAX convention coming up here in March.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
Cool, man. Well, that's all I have for you today. I want to say thank you so much.